And now it's my privilege to introduce the only OG I know, Rick Magnuson.
Welcome, everybody. And John and Taylor, I really appreciate your thoughtful and personally revealing comments. This was certainly an unexpected recognition for me. But in real estate, I firmly believe it's a team effort. And so I accept, and with gratitude and pride, this honor on behalf of all of the GI real estate teams and their accomplishments. Thanks. Many of my current and former teammates here tonight, and for those of you who traveled by plane, we really appreciate you making the effort to get here. I know it wasn't easy, particularly with the rain. And thanks to my friends that are here, so many friends that are here, my GSB 82 classmates. And so I will comment, the class of 82, all my friends, we had this rule, you never be in the front row. So I don't know what happened. What are you guys doing right there? I got a duck. Business partners, my GI team members are sitting over here, thank you, and my family. And thank you tonight's sponsors, all your tables here who supported this wonderful event and have given so generously to the SPIRE program. And also congrats to Jeff Birdwell for also joining me up here tonight. There's a couple themes I'd like to highlight. The first is teams. I think teams are really important, building teams, accomplishing through teams, being a player coach. And the three teams that I'm gonna highlight in terms of giving them the honor for this is GI 1.0, which was digital realty, Centerpoint, which John mentioned, and then GI 2.0, which is the whole data center thing we've been doing recently. I'll get into that. SPIRE, intergenerational giving is really important to me. As Taylor mentioned, we started something at Dartmouth that's very similar to SPIRE. I'll talk about that in a minute, but with SPIRE, when they mentioned this to me, I said I'd like to talk to some of the recipients. So they put me in touch with the students, and they're doing such cool things. You know, with $5,000 or $10,000, one person's turning coal ash into concrete, another one's getting involved in the electricity regulatory markets, and then they take this money and then they go out and raise venture money. So it's as important to maybe be successful at that, but also have that experience early in your life, and that's what John and I had the great fortune of doing with the bus company. We sold it. And then, all right. So speaking of teams, with respect to our home team, I'm supported by a wonderful wife in Allison. She has been our guiding light throughout all this. Well, yeah. Her love, support, and patience has been such an important part of our journey. And as John mentioned, as you saw with Taylor, both Taylor and Scott have both personal and amazing career accomplishments of their own. So I thank my family for being so patient with me and being such an important part of this journey, and it's going to continue. I'm also so fortunate to have my friends at GSB continue to be part of this real estate investing. So whether it's John, Bob Chapman, or Mark Whiting, I mean, can you imagine 40 years later still investing with your classmates? We still like each other. Turning to Stanford, it's been part of my life since day one. Both of my parents attended Stanford, and I grew up a mile just west of here. I went to school here in Sharon Heights, public school here in Sharon Heights, and I've sort of have lived Stanford my entire life, and so it's an honor, and it means a lot to me and my family to be part of this evening. We've all watched Stanford evolve from an excellent university to a world-class research institution. And as Andrew Luck talked about today, from being a Pac-8 team when I was younger, to a Pac-10 team in my youth, to Pac-12 recently, and now the ACC. And the best thing about the ACC is Stanford's always on television now. You can watch the games. That's the only good thing about the ACC. And Stanford's also been great at reaching out to alumni, and I've been so fortunate to be part of Hoover. I was overseer there, and CEPR with Mark Wolfson, who is here, for the past several decades. So I've really become involved and engaged with Stanford, and I appreciate being part of this evening. Spire is an important way for alumni to reconnect, provide support and encouragement to the next generation, which you're doing here, and network between professionals. I'm so pleased to be part of this mission of yours, and I think as we roll forward with AI, these sort of events are going to be critical to keeping us all sane and engaged, because AI can't replicate this. I'm just an avatar. And so it was when I arrived on the GSB campus in 1980 with this group here. The Dean of Admissions, Lori Lieberman, who many of us were so thankful to, walked over to a group of us, I know I was in that group, and had some career-giving advice. Again, this is the first week. He explained that the GSB grading system was pass-fail, and that only the top 10% of the class, just 28 students, would be honor students and getting recognition. And he looked at me and the others and he said, I know your backgrounds, I know your track records, and you're not ours caliber. So he immediately encouraged us to participate with him on the intramural football team, which he really wanted to win and defeat the fraternities and all the other groups. And some of those players are here, Mark Whiting, Bob Chapman, John Sayre, and we did that. He also, probably the only time that GSB's ever won anything in sports, but we did it. He also told us to enjoy the school, make good connections, and enjoy the classes. So here we are. We embrace his philosophy. We won the IMs, and I'm still with all my friends from business school after 40 years. So how good is that? And in reflecting on this, I wanted to tell just one story from business school, and then we'll move on to business stuff. Was anyone here an electrical engineering major at Stanford? Good, I can tell the story. So they encouraged us to take classes across the street, and at the time, McNeely had founded Sun with Vinod, and he had met Vinod on campus. And so I thought, well, gee, maybe I'll do the same thing. And I took the class, Electrical Engineering Smart Product Design. This is before Stanford was known as Nerd Nation. But I tell you, Nerd Nation started in this class. All these guys had pocket protectors, which is for the younger people. You used to have pockets on your shirts, and then you have to protect them from all the colors. And the professor said, you can do pass-fail, I get it. And these are all engineering majors. And I would go home and I'd solder chips onto the board because it was smart product design. And the midterm was, you got these little toy tanks, and with the controls, like when you were children, but you had to program the chip. And that was the midterm. And then you'd fire on each other, and the person who was killed first got the F, and then the last guy standing was the A. Well, these engineers, they weren't so polite, and they nailed me. And that was it. I was out of that class. But the nerd in me kind of stuck, so we'll get to that in a minute. Success is never a straight line, and up and to the right, there are bumps and setbacks in our careers. Being patient and resilient is such an important part. And this is true during my first 18 years of my career. I'm going to say they're completely unremarkable, so we're not going to talk about them. But come about 25 years ago, things started to change, and there's 3 real estate teams I wanted to recognize tonight, and the first one would be GI Partners with Digital Realty. And if you don't mind, I'll talk a bit about digital. We started back in 2000. The best time to start a company is when you don't have a job. Well, some people start companies on the back of napkins. Others have breakfast at Bucks. I think NVIDIA was at Denny's. But in my case, it was a FedEx package, as John mentioned, to CalPERS, containing an investment idea for a fund that would blend real estate, technology, and private equity. And in reflecting on this, what was really unique, and I think really rewarding, it was the original Spire inductee, Don Cole, who backed me. Don recently merged his company into CBRE. They put up all the co-investment capital, the back office, and then that package had the great fortune of finding its way at the desk of CalPERS to another Stanford graduate, and John mentioned, who's Rick Hayes. We were awarded $500 million with one stipulation, and this was Rick saying, CalPERS needed to be able to name the fund. And so I thought, $500 million, you want to call it? Okay, what do you want to call it? So we came, Global Innovation Partners, which became GF Partners quickly. Rick is now with Jasper Ridge, and over the past 25 years, Jasper Ridge has continued to invest with us. So I don't know where, Mark Wolfson's here and Rick, I just want to thank them for their support early on. And also just to highlight the fact that Don Cole, 25 years ago, is a true example of intergenerational support. I mean, this is how you start, help people, get them moving, going forward. Doesn't always work, but hey, let's make the effort. So our initial investment strategy was to acquire empty data centers and internet hotels abandoned by the dot-com bust. So what had happened was there was this enthusiasm for everything internet. They overbuilt the fiber in the streets. We sort of observed the fiber in the streets, emptied into buildings. Those buildings could be valuable, not the fiber. We didn't invest in the fiber originally. And sure enough, things blew up. There were bankruptcies, Global Crossing, for those of us who remember, Exodus, 360 Networks. Someone asked me, are there parallels to today? And the answer is, yeah, 100%. Yeah, all this enthusiasm, no risk, overbuilding. But we benefited from it, and we were sort of the junkyard dogs back then. We purchased them through bankruptcy with cap rates averaging 13%. We rolled them up into a REIT and went public a little over 20 years ago. But at the time, no one believed data centers were real estate. In fact, the IPO was almost pulled. And we went out to New York to talk about this data center REIT, and the guys, was it Fidelity or was AEW or more, these people who controlled the REIT world, they had a little checklist of the food groups. And okay, center, I've got retail centers on here, I've got office centers, I've got mixed use, I don't have a data center. And they said, why does data need a place to live? And we were just completely aced. No one understood what we were doing. They wouldn't put money with us, but we came back out here to California, and sure enough, just right up the road here, Franklin Funds understood what we were doing, and they were our, the order that actually made it happen. And just one quick story about making it happen. So it was right after 9/11, you have 3 guys on the road show, and one-way tickets. And so every time we were stopped by TSA, 3 guys, one-way tickets. So we missed a lot of our meetings. So the second half, we got a plane. And boy, the plane was pretty nice. So we're traveling around, and we're at the LAX airport, and we're supposed to price the deal. And in an IPO, back then, they'd call it, and they'd say, here's your price. So we're sitting there, and our plane's right there, and across the way is the Southwest terminal. And the guys from New York call, and they say, well, we got good news and bad news. Okay, what's the good news? Well, we got enough money for you to go public. And what's the bad news? Well, it's $12. It's below your filing range. It's kind of insulting. So I looked at put it on hold, and I looked at my friends. I said, okay, here's the choice. We can pull the deal and fly back Southwest, or we can accept it and fly back on the private plane. True story. The other story is a year later. So we started buying all these buildings, and in Chicago there's a building called Cermak, which is a big internet connection hotel building, and it was the Donnelly printing press. And it's very next to McCormick Place, so if you guys know where that is. So we had the analysts in for some sort of REIT event in Chicago. We took a bus out. And although I bought the building, I'd never been to it. And neither had these analysts, and they didn't really know what a data center was. So the bus driver pulls up and kind of goes through the tunnel, and in these amazing doors in this huge building, and the analysts are going, oh my God, this building's worth more than the REIT, and they're on their phones. It was McCormick Place. The bus driver didn't know where he was going. And but ironically, today these data halls are worth 15 times that of McCormick Place. So things change. Today, Digital Realty is one of the top 5 REITs in terms of market capitalization. And interestingly, intergenerational support. The current CEO of Digital was the person who was the analyst on the roadshow carrying all of our bags. So he hung in there, and now he's the CEO, and he's doing a great job. The stock's doing really well. So, this happens when you do these sort of things with people who have great opportunity. And so with that strategy, we were able then to kind of look under the hood what's going on in the data centers. So first it was the interconnections between the buildings and these internet gateways. We created a company called Telex, which we sold. Fiber backbone between the coasts, that was Wave Broadband, co-location buildings, Flexential. Prop tech, which I know was a big part of today's conversation, MRI software, which has been a fabulous investment for us, and now cloud and cybersecurity. So those investments now form, as John mentioned, the PE strategy and the data infrastructure strategy of GI. The next large undertaking was the restructuring of CenterPoint in Chicago. It was CalPERS' single largest position at the time. CalPERS asked us both to invest in the platform and oversee its turnaround. And John, you forgot to mention that they wanted us to invest in the platform. We wrote some pretty big checks. And the first quarter of us having written these very big checks, CalPERS took a $200 million write-down. And so did we. Not that big, but we were pro rata. So we, with Bob and Jim Clulow's help, we dug our way out of it. We took advantage of moving from Chicago to port-centric industrial facilities, and then we embraced the theme of technology by front-running the e-commerce logistics transition. These guys did a great job at that, and transitioned out of Chicago to the rest of the United States. So Jim and Bob, thank you for the past 14 years of our industrial mayhem, these accomplishments, and because, these guys made a lot of money for CalPERS, helping us reduce our California taxes, and for supporting this event tonight. The third team and last team I'd like to highlight is the GI Real Estate Group. As John mentioned, he started it back in 2010. Again, teams and platforms is the theme: student housing, apartments, medical facilities. But there's one area tonight I want to focus on because that's probably been our most successful in addition to CenterPoint. Digital, about at that time, had turned its attention to international markets, so they were going over to Singapore and Australia and the UK, and I thought there'd be opportunity to create something similar here in the US. So with our pension fund backers, we started buying data center real estate, which that group's headed, they're sitting over there by Mike Armstrong, who's a longstanding member of Spire. And since Mike knows me so well, I was surprised I wasn't blackballed from this whole thing. Michael Lee, who's an alumnus of Digital Realty, and Tony Lin. So thanks, guys. The team's built a vertically integrated data center platform and started in 2011. We were well ahead of the current data center craze. Today we have a portfolio of 85 data centers powered by 860 megawatts, which is a pretty big portfolio. Now, these megawatt things, they're getting even bigger, but ours are all sort of central to cities, not out in the middle of cornfields, so I think it's a pretty interesting portfolio. And the GI real estate team, in addition to our friends of tables nearby, they also invited a lot of their friends in the real estate world. So I wanted to thank those sponsors for also joining us tonight. So a quick comment on the arc of history for data centers. Starting in 2000, when they were not considered real estate and incredibly difficult to finance. Today, they are referenced daily as an integral to the future of AI. It's been such an amazing journey. In fact, there's actually an ad now on TV about data centers. If you want, well, I don't think it's good, but they're so popular in terms of the discussion. It is said in Silicon Valley that having a great technology can make a company, but having a secular trend break your way makes it a success. And we've had so many secular ways break our way, whether it was Web 2.0, social networking, cloud computing, and now AI. We at GI are so appreciative of our initial investors and that shared early vision. So 2 quick shout outs before I step off. The first is to Dartmouth. It might be considered unusual for another university to host a table, like having Fisher Center here. That'd kind of be odd. But Dartmouth Center for Entrepreneurship is so similar in purpose to its goals at Spire. They got really excited about this when they heard it. We're supporting students seeking careers in companies. They might start through grants and experiential learning. And we get our alums to network. So it sounds pretty familiar. And the only thing I wish is that we could then maybe export this to other schools because it's so powerful. It's such a great concept. I'd like you to welcome Jamie Coughlin, who runs the center, Jeff Crow, who was its visionary, and Andrea Johnson, who's currently its chairperson. Thanks for coming. And then a quick shout out to Farney and Tay. You know, we do some strange things, and some are fun, some are difficult, but the one that's been the most enjoyable is investing in the wine industry, and Farney and Tay has done a wonderful thing in terms of supplying the wine. Does everyone enjoy it? So, you know, it's the spirit of giving. It's before Christmas. It's friends. Dana, who's our CFO, Dana, what do you think about giving these people some free wine and tastings? But we need friends. Lauren, is that okay? Yes. All right, so we're going to offer everybody a free tasting in any one of our wineries in Napa, and then the special discount for Spire. Everyone here, and we'll work through Lauren for that. So I'll give you computer chips if I had them. So I'd like to finish where I started tonight, extending my appreciation to all of you that worked with me in these real estate adventures, to my family for their love and support, and to Spire for allowing me to highlight those teams and individuals who have accomplished so much with us, and in the support of this intergenerational program within the Stanford network. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Rick and John and Taylor. But it was so fun to hear how important teams are, how important Stanford is, and couldn't get any better, so thank you so much.